It started with a sound, a deep, cosmic hum that shook the heavens themselves. In Metropolis, people froze mid-step as the air vibrated. Birds scattered, windows shattered, and for a split second, the sun went dark. Above the skyline, a rift opened, a tear of golden light stretching across the atmosphere like a wound in space itself. From it emerged a hand larger than a continent, sculpted from pure energy and etched with runes older than the universe. That was the first time Earth saw them, the Celestials. At the Daily Planet, Clark Kent felt it before he saw it. His super hearing caught the faint whispers of cosmic energy, something far beyond anything he'd ever sensed. Not magic, not science, something divine. Without a word, he rushed to the rooftop, tore open his shirt, and launched into the sky. The blue blur raced past the clouds, piercing the upper atmosphere, until he saw it. 5 colossal beings, standing in orbit like gods gazing down upon an anthill. Each one was unique, towering titans of energy and armor. The leader, Arishem the Judge, spoke in a voice that could tear planets apart. This world was not written into the design. It must be corrected. Superman's eyes narrowed. Another invasion. Another cosmic tyrant threatening Earth. But this time, it felt different. These weren't conquerors. They were architects. When Superman confronted them, his voice echoed across the void. Whatever you are, Earth is under my protection. Arishem turned, his massive head rotating slowly, eyes glowing like twin red suns. You are not part of the design, Kryptonian. You are an error that must be removed. That word, error, made Superman's heart freeze. How did they know he wasn't from Earth? How did they know Krypton? And then it hit him. These beings weren't from his universe. They were from another reality, one where creation itself was measured, weighed, and judged by Celestials. Superman charged. He struck with the force of a supernova, colliding into the nearest Celestial, Exitar the Executioner. The impact created a shockwave that rippled across space, bending light and time around them. But when the smoke cleared, Exitar hadn't moved an inch. Superman floated back, stunned. His fists burned, his knuckles cracked, and the Celestial looked down at him like a man watching an insect try to move a mountain. You are strong, Exitar said, his voice a rumble of galaxies. But strength cannot defy purpose. Then came the blast, a beam of golden energy, ancient and absolute. It hit Superman square in the chest and sent him plummeting through the atmosphere, tearing through clouds, through a thunderstorm, through everything, until he slammed into the Pacific Ocean. The shockwave created a tsunami that reached Japan. Minutes later, underwater and dazed, Superman floated lifelessly. His cape was shredded, his body trembling from the energy still coursing through him. But his spirit? Unbroken. He rose from the water, eyes glowing red with fury. And for the first time in years, he was afraid. He'd fought gods before, Darkseid, Doomsday, even beings that twisted reality itself. But these Celestials were different. They didn't just control life and death. They authored it. Meanwhile, back in orbit, the Celestials began to construct something, a massive orb of light, pulsing with raw cosmic data. Arishem called it the Judgment Matrix. It would scan the Earth's genetic, moral, and cosmic structure. If the result was impure, the world would be erased. The Justice League scrambled into action. Batman coordinated a planetary defense. Wonder Woman prepared for divine combat. Green Lantern called in reinforcements from the Corps. But even the combined might of the League couldn't stop what was coming. As Batman studied the energy signatures, he muttered, "This isn't invasion. It's correction. They think we're a mistake." Superman returned, scorched but unbroken, landing on the watchtower. He looked at the holographic projection of the Celestials and whispered, "They're rewriting existence. If they succeed, we're gone." Then, out of nowhere, the voice of Metron echoed from the shadows. "You cannot fight creation, Superman. But perhaps you can outright it." Superman turned. Metron, the new god of knowledge, stepped forward, holding his Mobius chair, glowing with infinite data streams. The Celestials believe they are the first architects. They are wrong. Krypton held knowledge they fear, the Genesis equation. It can overwrite even celestial code. Superman's eyes widened. "You're saying Krypton created something that could change reality?" Metron smiled faintly. "No. I'm saying Krypton created something that could rival gods. And that's where it began. Superman's new mission wasn't to fight the Celestials. It was to find Krypton's forgotten weapon, hidden deep within the multiverse, before Earth was judged unworthy. But time was running out. The Judgment Matrix had begun to glow brighter, and every hour, its hum grew louder, shaking the stars themselves. Because once it reached full power, humanity would stand trial before the gods of creation. The stars began to dim. One by one, constellations vanished, as if swallowed by a shadow creeping from the edge of time. That shadow was the Judgment Matrix, and its light, once pure and golden, had begun to bleed red. In the watchtower, alarms screamed. Batman stared at the data feed, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The Matrix wasn't just analyzing the planet. It was rewriting it. Every molecule, every life form, was being scanned and cross-referenced against something far older than existence itself, the celestial design. Superman hovered silently before the hologram. His face was calm, but his heartbeat? Faster than a speeding bullet. How long before it's complete, he asked. Batman's voice was low. At this rate, less than 12 hours. The room fell silent. Even Wonder Woman's steady composure faltered for a moment. Then, in a flash of blue fire, Metron appeared. His Mobius chair glowed brighter than ever, circuits alive with cosmic energy. You won't find the answer here, he said. You must travel to where Krypton's first gods fell. Superman frowned. Krypton never had gods. Metron's gaze sharpened. Every world has gods, Kal-El. Yours just tried to erase theirs. And with that, space folded in around them. The watchtower vanished, replaced by a wasteland of shattered planets and frozen suns. The remnants of a dead dimension, the archive of the first flame. Superman floated beside Metron, scanning the ruins with his heat vision. Broken temples drifted through the void. Ancient statues, bearing Kryptonian symbols, hovered like ghosts of a forgotten past. What is this place? Superman whispered. This, Metron replied, is where Krypton first touched creation. Before it was a planet, it was an idea. Superman looked puzzled. Metron continued. The Celestials were the architects of matter. But Krypton discovered a flaw, a mathematical anomaly within existence. They called it the Genesis equation. It allowed them to shape reality, not through power, but through logic. Superman's eyes widened. And you think that equation can stop the Celestials? Not stop, Metron said softly. Challenge. Suddenly, a ripple of energy tore through the void. The air vibrated like the universe itself had taken a breath. From the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked in flames of pure logic, eyes blazing with equations instead of pupils. Metron whispered one name. The archivist. He was neither man nor machine, a sentient construct from Krypton's prehistory, built to protect the Genesis equation. Kal-El. It spoke, its voice mechanical yet filled with sorrow. You carry the blood of those who defied creation. Why do you seek their weapon? Superman stepped forward. Because the Celestials are going to destroy Earth. Millions of lives, innocent lives, gone in an instant. The archivist tilted its head. And why should we preserve imperfection? That question pierced him like a blade. Superman's voice hardened. Because imperfection is what makes life worth saving. For a long moment, the archivist was silent. Then, a golden sigil formed on its chest. The air began to shimmer. Equations wrote themselves into existence, spinning around Superman in rings of light. Then you must prove your worth, son of Krypton, the archivist said. Endure the trial of Genesis. Suddenly, the space around Superman fractured, reality collapsing into shards. He fell through colors, sounds, memories, moments, all looping infinitely. He found himself standing on Krypton, moments before its destruction. The red sun blazed overhead. Buildings trembled. He heard his parents' voices, Jor-El, Lara, but they were distorted, echoing across timelines. He saw himself as a child, being placed in the escape pod. He saw Krypton explode again, and again, and again. Each time, the pain multiplied, until he screamed. But then something changed. He didn't run from the destruction. He stood within it. He embraced the fire. He accepted that Krypton's fall wasn't failure. It was evolution. He whispered, "My people died, so others could live." That's the truth of creation. At that moment, the illusion shattered. Superman found himself floating once more before the archivist, but this time, the being bowed. You have understood the equation's essence. Creation and destruction are not enemies. They are the same act, viewed from different ends. From its chest, a glowing cube emerged, pulsing with Kryptonian glyphs. This is the Genesis key. It holds the pattern to overwrite reality itself. But use it wisely. Kryptonian, for those who rewrite creation, invite the wrath of the makers. Back on Earth, the Celestials had begun the final phase. The Judgment Matrix expanded, covering the planet in red light. Humans stared at the sky as if it were bleeding. The League launched everything they had, lantern constructs, mother boxes, even a boom tube into the Matrix's core. Nothing worked. Then, out of nowhere, Superman's voice cut through every communicator on Earth. I've got it. He appeared in the stratosphere, the Genesis key glowing in his hands like a newborn star. Batman's voice came through, static-filled. Whatever you're doing, Clark, do it fast. Superman looked up at the approaching Celestials. He whispered one word, hope. And then, he flew straight into the Judgment Matrix. Inside, there was no space. No time. Only equations, swirling endlessly. The Celestials turned toward him, their eyes blazing. You cannot rewrite creation, Kryptonian, Arishem thundered. You are bound by our design. Superman's eyes glowed red. Then maybe it's time the design changed. He slammed the Genesis key into the Matrix's core, and the universe exploded in light. For a moment, everything stopped. Silence. Stillness. Then the Matrix began to crack, light pouring through like water from a shattered dam. Arishem roared, his voice splitting galaxies, but it was too late. Superman had merged the Genesis equation with the Judgment Code. He wasn't fighting the Celestials anymore. He was rewriting the story itself. The universe trembled. Stars flickered like dying candles. And in the center of it all, Superman floated, suspended in a storm of creation itself. The Judgment Matrix shattered around him, bleeding energy across the cosmos. The Celestials, once serene and omnipotent, now looked unsettled, almost afraid. Because something impossible was happening. The Genesis equation, the ancient Kryptonian logic of existence, was rewriting their code. Arishem raised his hand, galaxies orbiting his palm. You defy your origin, Kryptonian. You corrupt the song of creation. Superman's voice thundered back, deeper, charged with energy that made space itself ripple. Maybe the song needed a new verse. He surged forward, faster than light, punching through Exitar's chest plate. Cosmic metal shattered like glass. A burst of red and gold fire illuminated the void as the executioner howled in pain, something the Celestials had never known. The blast hurled Superman backward, but he steadied himself. His suit glowed, pulsing with Kryptonian glyphs that moved like living veins of light. The Genesis key had bonded with him. He was the equation now, but the cost was immense. Every second burned through his cells, rewriting his DNA to withstand creation's raw energy. His heartbeat echoed like thunder across the stars. He was becoming something no Kryptonian had ever been, a god born of logic, not divinity. Back on Earth, chaos reigned. Skies glowed crimson. Oceans boiled from celestial fallout. The Justice League fought desperately to protect what remained. Wonder Woman clashed with cosmic drones the size of cities. Green Lantern formed shields over continents. Batman, ever the strategist, coordinated evacuations through boom tubes, whispering into the comms. He's buying us time. Don't waste it. And then, above the clouds, the world saw it, a flash brighter than the sun, splitting the heavens open. Superman and Arishem were clashing again. Only this time, the sound wasn't thunder. It was reality breaking. Each blow warped the cosmos. Planets trembled. Nebulae twisted. The very laws of physics bent under their fury. Arishem raised his judgment staff, channeling the pure energy of the first firmament, the source of all existence in Marvel's multiverse. You are finite, Kryptonian. We are eternal. Superman hovered still, his cape torn, his fists bleeding starlight. He smiled. Then eternity's about to have a bad day. He flew. The impact of his punch was felt across galaxies. The staff shattered. Arishem's chest caved in, releasing waves of divine plasma that burned through the stars. But even as Erishem staggered, the others rose. Essen the searcher, Nezer the calculator, Tefril the surveyor, uniting their power into a single beam of creation. It hit Superman head-on. The explosion engulfed him. For a moment, there was nothing. Silence. Then a heartbeat. And through the blinding light, a silhouette emerged, cape tattered, eyes burning brighter than ever. "You still don't get it," Superman said softly. "I'm not fighting to win. I'm fighting to believe." He raised his hands, channeling the Genesis equation. The air rippled as symbols of Kryptonian logic wrapped around his body, forming a glowing sigil, the House of El, but rewritten in the language of the gods. "Hope," he whispered, "is creation." He unleashed the blast. It wasn't energy. It was truth, a rewriting wave that spread across the cosmos, recoding the matrix, the celestials, even the stars themselves. The celestials screamed. Their armor cracked. Their essence fragmented into motes of light. And then they were gone. Dissolved. Unwritten. Superman fell through the aftermath, barely conscious. The Genesis key dissolved from his hand, fading into light. He drifted toward Earth, atmosphere blazing around him like a falling star. When he crashed in the fields outside Smallville, the ground cratered for miles. Moments later, a shadow loomed over him. Batman, cape billowing in the wind. "You did it," Bruce said quietly. "The readings, they're gone. The Celestials are gone." Superman smiled weakly. "No, Bruce. They're not gone. Just rewritten." He looked up at the night sky, now calm, the stars shining brighter than ever. Somewhere out there, they're still watching. But maybe they'll remember what hope looks like. Weeks later, in the ruins of the Watchtower, the League gathered. Metron appeared once more, eyes glowing with uneasy fascination. "You've done the impossible, Kal-El. You didn't just defeat gods. You altered their code. The multiverse is evolving because of you." Superman looked down at his hands. "Then I hope it's changing for the better." Metron smirked faintly. "That depends. You see, the Genesis equation doesn't erase power. It redistributes it." Superman frowned. "Meaning?" Metron leaned closer, voice low. "Meaning the Celestials may be gone, but something else has taken their place." And before Superman could reply, the Mobius chair vanished in a flash of blue fire. Days later, across the universe, a new figure emerged in the void. A humanoid silhouette cloaked in red and silver armor, carrying a staff forged from both celestial and Kryptonian symbols. Its voice echoed softly, balance restored, judgment redefined. Its eyes flared, blue and crimson, intertwined. "I am the equation." And with that, the figure disappeared into the stars, leaving behind a silent promise. The war between gods and men had only just begun. Superman didn't just fight gods. He challenged the very design of creation. In defying the Celestials, he proved that hope isn't a flaw in the universe. It's its greatest feature. Krypton may have fallen, but through Superman, its spirit rose to rewrite the stars themselves. And somewhere, in a realm beyond imagination, a new architect is watching, waiting, ready to decide if Krypton's defiance was salvation or heresy. If you love this cosmic clash of power and philosophy, don't stop here. Hit subscribe and dive into our next story, the one above all versus the presence, the final God War. Because this was just the beginning.